Thank you very much, Ignacy. Thanks to Luis for being here. We are starting the next seminar of the SEMNE seminar series, and I'm happy to welcome here now virtually. Hopefully, sometime we will be also able to meet in person. Luis Segura, who is an assistant professor at the University of Louisville in the Department of Industrial Engineering. He has originally received his bachelor's in the University of Fuerzas Armadas in Ecuador, and he has obtained his Ph.D. in Industrial and Systems Engineering at the University of Buffalo in the U.S. He has received a number of very important distinctions and scholarships, including Fulbright, John Rieger Seed Grant, and so on. He has also spent some time working in Europe at the University of Eindhoven in Netherlands. And now his research is very much aligned, or is very much interesting for us, particularly for the group that works with the groups that work with the manufacturing, and groups that work with the additive manufacturing, and groups that work with inkjet printing, because his research interest and his research expertise lies in the field of optimization of processes and product quality in advanced manufacturing. And he's interested and works on physics-based and data-driven models for the optimization of such processes. So thank you very much for being here. The floor is yours, Luis.
Okay. Thank you very much, actually, for the invitation. And hopefully someday we can meet in person. That would be awesome. And also either I can come there or you can come here anytime. When I'm in the USA. So hopefully that's gonna happen. So I'm going to share my screen. Thanks actually for the nice introduction as well. That was nice. Let me just share my screen. I just want to confirm. Can you see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. As I mentioned, again, thank you very much for the invitation. My name is Luis Segura. I'm working in Industrial Engineering Department at the University of Louisville. As it was mentioned, I'm doing research in advanced manufacturing. I had some experience in inkjet printing, electrospinning, some additive manufacturing processes, basically. But most of the work that I've done during my dissertation, and also I'm trying to incorporate here because I'm initiating in this department, and this is probably new to this department. It's in the material jetting processes area. So today I'm going to present one part of what I've done before, the droplet evolution prediction in material jetting via Tensor Time Series analysis. But before going to that, I want to elaborate a little bit how I'm working on what we are trying to do. Basically, as I mentioned to you, we are doing some analysis in advanced manufacturing systems to have process consistency, product consistency, etc. Some inkjet printing processes have been analyzed, also freezing nanoprinting, which is basically the integration of freezing casting and inkjet printing that is going to be able to produce porous structures very accurately. And I think you are all familiar with these processes, and also with electrospinning. But at the end of the day, it can be any manufacturing process. Those processes are going to generate or have data-intensive environments, either because we have sensing technology that is also making a lot of progress. We have like high-speed cameras or conventional cameras. We have sensors, etc., etc. And also we have progress a lot in physics-based models. And what I want to try to achieve is to incorporate somehow these two different data sources in order to augment the model performance in terms of accuracy, and also in terms of computational efficiency. The raw data that we are going to get basically from these different data generators are going to be in the form of streaming videos, signals, images, point clouds, etc., etc. And this raw data are going to possess several characteristics, as you can see here: high dimensionality, high frequency, functional structures, spatial correlations, and so on. But dealing or extracting knowledge from these different methodologies are going to be, it's going to be intricate or challenging. So this is the task that we want to basically address in order to do some analytics for process modeling and optimization, monitoring, and anomaly detection, prognostics, process control, etc., etc., so that we can try to get smart systems. But these systems are complicated, right? The dynamics changes a lot. Ambient temperature, ambient conditions may change a lot. So we are trying to go to that direction to try to make them more stable, which is, yeah, you may know this is quite complicated process. So now I'm going to focus a little bit on the inkjet printing process, because this is the what we utilize as a machine or as a process in order to do the analysis. So we first start with the analysis that mentioning that these inkjet printing processes are going to or can be discretized in different stages: jetting, evolution, impeachment, and solidification in this case. And all these stages at the end of the day are going to be interconnected. So here, for instance, the jetting and evolution, they are going to have, or they are going to be quite easy with the technology that we have today to do online monitoring and control with cameras. We'll get experimental data, and also there is plenty of work done on physics-based modeling part for the jetting and evolution to see the droplet behaviors, etc., etc. But obtaining solidification and impeachment data, experimental data, while the process is on the fly, probably that is going to be harder compared to the previous stages. And then we are just going to have a physics-based modeling data, which is going to be generate an unbalanced data at the end of the day. Okay, so this is the big goal of the research that I'm trying to do. So here I'm going to focus on just one stage, which is the evolution, how to address different droplet behaviors, and how to try to get different process exploration for different material process or different process conditions, material conditions, etc., etc. Yeah, I want to illustrate this. First of all, that yeah, we have droplet behaviors. We describe them with the physics-based principles. You have to do some droplet solidification time planning for droplet layers. I mean, for printed layers, and different behaviors that are going to match also with the experimental setups, as you can see here, for model validation. Different material properties will produce also different behaviors, such as density, viscosity, and surface tension will produce different behaviors, process parameters, etc., etc. So we are going to have different variables that are going to basically change the process performance at the end of the day. And that is what we want to incorporate in the methodology. So here I'm going to give you just a brief introduction of the specific work that we did. By the way, this is published in the Additive Manufacturing Journal. So if you want to see some details after this talk, yeah, maybe that can be of your interest. And also I'll be happy to discuss if we need to do that later on offline. Then I'll go to check the state of the art, proposed framework, yeah, just discuss a little bit about it, case study, and finally a summary and future work. As I was elaborating, the inkjet printing process is an additive manufacturing process that is capable to produce intricate structures with high resolution, high quality. As you can see here on the figures, you have some wearable sensors. We have micro electrodes for micro batteries. We also have scaffolds for biomedical applications, etc., etc. Of course, these processes possess different advantages. Yeah, they can produce flexible 3D structures, as we just saw, multi-material 3D printing, yeah, from probably multi-nozzle material, multi-nozzle configurations as well. But of course, they have several limitations, and we want to basically address those. The process is very sensitive to process and material parameters, and also ambient conditions, as I mentioned to you. Fabricating process with the tailored microstructures is still a significant challenge here. And yeah, the nozzle resolution or the nozzle or the resolution is going to be limited to the nozzle size, just to name a few of them. So we have, we know that we have several inkjet printing process technologies. The one that we are focusing on is the drop on demand, according to the literature and what we have explored. This has been the technology that has produced the highest resolution reported so far. So basically, here you can see a scheme of the process, how this is actually working. Basically, we have electrical signal with different shapes that is going to actuate the piezoelectric, and then this piezoelectric is going to squeeze out the material so that the drop-on-demand droplets are going to be jetted out in order to produce the different layers for the different 3D printed parts. And in part B, you can see different behaviors, and all of them are going to have specific implications towards the final part performance that we want to produce. As I mentioned to you here, material properties such as surface tension, viscosity, they will play an important role. Interaction between the solid solution, ink, air, and substrate, the wettability also plays important roles. So this is what we want to try to understand from this point of view, from this different perspective, from data analytic perspective. So the motivation here basically is for this particular work is that distinct material properties will produce distinct droplet behaviors, since they are coming from the same forming mechanism, namely inkjet printing process setup, simulation environment, etc., we can consider them as co-evolutionary phenomena. So here you have the so-called co-evolving droplet evolution behaviors in this particular case, and we can consider them as time series under this context. So here, what we want to do is basically to exploit this co-evolving synergy among the different droplets in order to be able to make predictions for unseen material properties. This can be very useful if we want to do, for instance, different material properties exploration or droplet behaviors for different material properties or process properties, so that we can have good approximations by exploiting the relationships among these different co-evolving time series. And also
sorry,
this,
Luis, one question.
yes.
What do you mean by synergy? Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, when I see synergy, when I mention or I say synergy is, for instance, for time series 1, let me just move this a little bit. When you have time series 1 and when you have time series 3, but you collected data either simulated or experimental data, so whatever is going to be in the middle is going to be, yeah, just to call it as a high level, is going to be kind of extrapolation, so that these two are going to be kind of the informative data that are going to basically fill out the unseen material properties. But of course, this has to be attached. Later on, you will see that this has to be attached to a graph network that is basically constructed from material properties, so that, yeah, this is going to happen. So that is what I mean with synergy of the material. I mean synergy across the different time series. Hopefully that was clear. Hopefully I made my point.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So here, yeah, I was mentioning that yeah, this may enable future in situ monitoring, diagnosis, and control, or probably just do some kind of informed guess of the material process parameters that we want to utilize in the equipment in order to produce particular process behaviors or desirable process behaviors. That is what is the purpose of this work. Yeah, several challenges are going to happen here, as in all research we are doing, all of us. So the spatial-temporal dynamics are going to be probably hard to be incorporated into the model. Here, how we are going to learn the synergy among the co-evolving droplet evolution videos. So this is something that, yeah, I tried to answer before. So basically, how we are going to do here is hopefully in this scheme is you can see clearly that the time series were basically vectorized in this fashion, and then we stack them for, in this case, we utilize 40 time series, and then we form these co-evolving vectorized frames or snapshots that are going to evolve through the time. But that is just the tensor time series, but we need to basically inform the system how this is attached to particular material properties or ambient conditions, or whether they are coming from different sources, etc., etc. So here the analysis that we did here basically was restricted to just 2 dimensions, as you can see here, because this is just an initiation of this analysis. Hopefully later on we can do something else. So we form a network for the material properties and also a network for the pixel locations, because they are going to change through the time. So we want to track those. And also one thing that I want to mention here is that we have initially tested this with the fixed adjacency matrices. When I say that, basically is with fixed material properties networks or pixel location networks at the beginning. We define just that one time, but this can be done dynamically through the time, because I'll try to make my point later on whenever we come to the case study. So basically, we require this structure in order to, as I mentioned, try to exploit the synergy among the different behaviors in order to capture the spatial and temporal relationships through this methodology. And this is going to be done for seeing material properties and also for unseen material properties. And how we represent these unseen material properties basically is by generating some empty frames or empty vectorized time series here, and then we are going to see how these are going to be populated after we train the methodology or the network. Several assumptions we had to do here. We initiated like this. The material is considered a Newtonian fluid as for now. The droplet evolution is governed by the same forming mechanism as I told you, to be considered as co-evolving time series. And the streaming video format, as for now, these are some limitations that we still need to overcome. The video format and frequency, they need to be consistent. So what I mean with this is, for instance, if you collect data with a camera that is giving you 30 frames per second, so all the data have to be like that. They have to be consistent. And if we have different frames per second, so we need to pre-treat the data so that we can basically achieve. These are the limitations that we have as for now, but little by little, hopefully we can overcome those. So after I gave this brief introduction, hopefully I'm going to give you just the state of the art work that has been done, I mean, here in this area. So there are conventional methods that are basically analyzing or are utilized to analyze time series, such as autoregressive, moving average, etc., but they do not capture the complex nonlinear spatial temporal relationships. Sorry for that. Let me just take a little bit of water. Also, we have machine learning methodologies such as supervised time series, based on support vector machine, Gaussian process, etc., but they do not capture the synergy among the co-evolving time series, because we need or we request to have networks to do that. In this case, we use graph networks. We also have the deep learning methodologies. We have one example here, recurrent neural network. They capture the non-linearities, but they often ignore the network, so the network relationship between the time series. So this is something we are trying to actually incorporate in our analysis. The proposed framework here is going to be illustrated in this figure. I'm going to just show everything. So first of all, this is the first initial concept of what we are trying to do. So the data collection was performed. We obtained several behaviors with commercial software, ANSYS Fluent. We obtained simulated data. We also utilize the vision system setting, and basically a CCD camera, 30 frames per second, I remember. We pre-process the data, we form the Tensor Time Series, and then, of course, during this process, we also computed the adjacency matrices in this particular case. And then we have this structure to basically try to extract spatial and temporal relationships, which are going to be in charge of the Tensor Graph Convolutional Network in this case, and also for the spatial relationships and for the temporal relationships, we have the Tensor Recurrent Neural Network that is going to basically address that part. After we train, we have, or we are able to make predictions over the complete Tensor Time Series for seen and unseen scenarios. But how we treat both scenarios are going to be the same, but the only difference is going to be that for unseen scenarios, we need to generate this empty data because it's supposed that we are not going to know, and recompute the adjacency matrices for the different material properties so that we can basically populate the empty frames. After that, we evaluate the methodology against the original observations, and yeah, to see how the methodology is actually performing. Some specific things for this particular framework, as I mentioned to you, we need to form this different the network of Tensor Time Series. So at the end of the day, we need to have these snapshots. Then we need to have these adjacency matrices in order to incorporate the relationships. We are going to have, in our case, just 2 dimensions. These snapshots are going to be taken by the Tensor Graph Convolutional Network. The spatial relationships will be captured here, or producing a new tensor that is going to be called node embeddings tensor. The dimensionality of this tensor is going to be higher because it's going to have a d dimension additionally to this. That's why we need to basically perform or do some sort of tensor decomposition in this case to reduce the dimensionality and make the process faster for the later stage, that is basically the Tensor Recurrent Neural Network, so that here we can incorporate the temporal relationships. And after we do this, we basically go back in tensor, reconstruct the tensor, and then we have the the information in the output module to concatenate and then make predictions for the new snapshot, which would be ST+1 basically. Yeah, but the important thing here to highlight is that we basically are addressing the dimensionality or high dimensionality of the problem whenever we are extracting the node embeddings is by doing some tensor decomposition. So we use Tucker decomposition in this case, but actually we can use any of the decompositions that we have. Yeah, we were exploring tensor train, for instance. Now we were exploring Candy-Comb parafact decompositions. So all of them may be efficient, probably more efficient if yeah, for the sake of computing for performance. Here, that was the process, how actually that worked. To illustrate how the data is being handled, and of course doing analysis because we have streaming data. So through the time, that data is going to be piled up, and then eventually we will have like a huge tensor. Yeah, by the way, in the context of machine learning, yeah, we call tensor to high dimensional matrices. Probably this is going to differ a little bit to what tensor is in a physics-based modeling, or from a physics-based modeling perspective. But here we just mention any matrix or representation with dimensions bigger than 2, it's going to be considered as a tensor. It's just high dimensional data. So here, what we are going to basically do, or we consider, is some historical slices and future slices in order to make the predictions. We are not considering all the data because the problem will become very complicated, and then we have to computes many parameters, and probably through the time, if we are doing this sequentially and also adding the information, then this is going to basically charge a lot to the computational load. So the first part, what I explained, is happening in the first term. So we need to minimize these different terms. So in the second term, we are going to do some computing or minimizing the reconstruction error. And the last part, basically, since we have obtaining orthogonal matrices, and we know that if we have orthogonal matrix times the transpose is going to be the identity. So here we basically are adding this regularization for the stability of the optimization. And yeah, there are some indexes there like mu1 and mu2 that basically are some tuning parameters, and we were doing several experimentations in order to determine those parameters. Yeah, this brings me to the case study where eventually we are going to, or we incorporated this framework to the inkjet printing analysis. So here we collected data for different material properties, as I mentioned to you. So we consider density, viscosity, and surface tension. We produce different behaviors. Let me just put all the data here. The original dimensions were the ones that are displayed under data collection. So we then process the data, as I mentioned to you. We just are interested in the area of interest. We downsample in terms of size as well. We were checking this because you can try different ways to downsample, but as long as we preserve the shape of the droplets, that's going to be good enough for this methodology. Of course, if we want to be more precise, the larger the better, but also that's going to compromise the computational resources. We vectorized in this fashion, as you can see here, and then we computed the adjacency matrices. We use the Gaussian kernel, but we can use several methodologies actually to compute the adjacency matrices, but we just thought this is good to capture what we wanted to do in this particular case. So once we have this structure, we train the network or the framework, and then we are ready to do predictions for one step ahead and multi-step ahead scenarios. So here, basically, one thing or important thing to highlight is that for the unseen material properties scenario, we needed to initialize some frames in that particular time series, because if this is not initialized, then we need to still determine and do more experimentations for that. The behaviors are not in agreement, and actually is not populating the rest of the droplet behaviors as it evolves. So one assumption, or we presume that this may happen because we have no informative information through the snapshots, because we just computed the adjacency matrix at the beginning. It is fixed, and if we have adjacency matrices that are going to be updated through the time, maybe that can be play a significant role as well. So that is something we need to determine. But again, all these changes are going to compromise the computational time as well, but I think it's worth it to try that as well. Here's some results for the simulated data. So we have tested this with different droplet behaviors that were vectorized and incorporated in the Tensor Time Series, because this would have been easy if we had just very consistent or similar droplet behavior. So we wanted to corroborate the robustness of this. So you have in the first two rows one behavior, the second two rows the same, and so on. So generally for one step ahead, we had quite good accuracy in terms of structural similarity index measure, which is a measurement that is going to do a pixel-wise comparison And I think this is the most informative to us. And also we computed the mean square error, just taking the matrices and get the Frobenius norm. But at the end of the day, here are the indexes. By the way, the first index SSIM, the closer to 1, the better the performance. So we have 0.92, which is good according to the literature and according to our experience. So we can see that this methodology, at least at the initial stages, is showing some promising results. Similarly, we did for the multi-step ahead. Here, we also determine in this part that for instance, for the data set that we have with the settings that we had, up to 8 steps ahead, this methodology may be good, because after that, the droplets or the predicted droplets are not changing, and they are basically staying still and not moving more. Because we have no new information that is going to inform the dynamics of the system. So, but 8 steps ahead could be good still to take some actions if the predictions are very fast. Now, for the unseen droplet evolution scenarios, we have tested a tensor with 20 different material properties. As you can see here, basically the underlying truth is being displayed against the predicted, and you can see that the shapes are quite similar, but the pixel intensity is going to change here. So we need also to work on that, but at the end of the day, we presume this is going to be good for us, because at the end of the day, as long as we can see the droplet behaviors, the shapes, this can be good informative or additional information for us to make a determination of desired process parameters for particular droplet behaviors. So here you have also the same indexes being displayed and corroborating that we have some good performance for the sake of the analysis. We also did the same for the experimental data. As I told you, we had data with a CCD camera collected at 30 frames per second. Probably here, the more frames per second you're going to have, of course, this is going to be better, but the performance will increase, but it's just because the frames are too kind of close, that few changes or small changes are going to be evidence between the first and the second frame. And probably that is not going to be also suitable for real-time applications due to the computational load towards the analysis. Similarly to what happened in the multi-step ahead prediction results, here we experienced that at step ahead number 4, the droplet is suffering or being affected in the same manner as it was for the simulated data, and the droplets are being or staying still, but still we have some say that we have some room or to probably incorporate right or on-time interventions to the process if we want to do that. We also have here the analysis for the unseen droplet evolution predictions. In this case, we modify the process settings, and we got also good agreement. So the analogy would be the same as for the simulated data. The results showed also some good agreement. As you can see here, maybe this is for the SSIM, an average of 0.75 for the predicted frames, which is a good given the fact that we have basically empty frames. So here you can see just an animation of that, how this is actually being done in the computer for the unseen scenarios and for the seen scenarios. and yeah, just the dynamic way how we did this. Yeah, and the predictions take after training take a matter of seconds with a regular computer. So that is something we are interested in. Finally, I want to summarize. So as I mentioned here during this talk, the inkjet printing can produce high quality parts, high resolution, but it still has some limitations that we want to address. So in this case, we basically address those by deploying network of Tensor Time Series in order to analyze different material properties. We can extend this to do some analysis for multi-source, multi-material, and also have this with different ambient conditions, etc., etc. So we can have all the considerations. This is going to add to the computational load, but probably this can be worth it. And according to my experience after being here, this is of interest of the funding agencies because having most of the time when we are doing data analytics, basically we are doing at the lab scale. So it would be great for them and for everybody to have data from different sources, probably different locations, from federated systems, and then do this kind of analysis to just discover probably behaviors that are not or are possible to do with experimental setups, but maybe they will take a lot of time and probably they will be very expensive as well. So at least this can, according to what I read, this I mean the funding agencies are interested on that, and this can be some kind of addition to that part. And the future work, as I mentioned to you, we want to increase the prediction accuracy. Basically here we tried in a previous work, we tried doing data augmentation. We deploy or incorporated to our training method generative adversarial network to generate plausible droplet evolution in this case, but we did this for a point cloud data that was used or was for dental applications. So we think this may work to increase the accuracy and the pixel intensity, because yeah, the more data we have, of course, the more the better the performance is going to be. And add more networks in order to study how these different conditions are going to influence the droplet deposition, basically. Yeah, this is the end of my talk. I want to thank you very much for the attention and for the invitation. If you may have some questions, please let me know. I'll try my best to answer. Thank you so much.
Ignacy?
Yeah, thank you very much, Luis. So if anybody has any question, please go ahead.
Well, I have a couple, so if I may. One question is about what you call the number of steps ahead. I mean, you basically would like to predict as many steps, or let's say I vulgarize it. I put it in a little bit simpler. You basically want to do it many steps ahead as possible, because you want to, if you see that your system works in the way that you don't like, you would like to take action, right?
Correct.
So how many steps do you actually want to have? And I mean, what is the gap that for you to be able to change the operating regime?
Yeah, I didn't hear very well the last part because there is some problem with the connection. But yeah, regarding the desirable number of steps ahead, yeah, of course, you're right. Yeah, the more the better. Yeah, because that's gonna give us more time to take action into the system. So here, what we have is with the setup, with the experiments we had, is up to 8 steps ahead, I think, for the simulated data, and 4 for the other one. But we can, or we are studying in order to improve this. So by adding these adjacency, dynamic adjacency matrices, because those are going to be more informative and probably they are going to give us better results in order to extend this. But it's very hard to say that with these methodologies, we are going to obtain in like 40, 50, yeah, 1 second, yeah, for 1 second, it will be 30 frames per second, right? 30 steps ahead. So maybe that's going to be too much for these kind of methodologies. But yeah, we can improve that by adding probably these dynamic adjacency matrices in this case. Yeah, we need to explore that.
And how can you react? I mean, imagine that, well, you're seeing, you're predicting that something is happening in the way that you don't want. What do you adjust in your setup?
Yeah, actually, this is another problem, okay? Because this is just the processing data part. So now this has to go to a control part. Yeah, closed loop control part. So here it depends a lot, and we are experiencing that. Yeah, the computational time we are dealing with now, yeah, could be good, but these processes are changing very fast. And so how this is going to be computed, that is a part that can be basically expedited in two manners. So one could be, for example, the high dimensional data. You can reduce the high dimensional data even more, and then by doing Tucker decomposition, using some mathematics behind, like sketching multiplication, for instance. Yeah, the Tucker decomposition can be even faster, but you have sacrificed a little bit of accuracy. Yeah, that is one part, how you can expedite these models. Another part is the hardware that is going to compute this. Are we going to use probably edge computing, cloud computing, or things like that in order to expedite this, and then inform to the system very quickly to interact and then adjust the parameters? So this is ongoing work that we are doing, but this is how we are seeing this. And yeah, we are partnering with a computer science guy in order to see all these kind of specificities related to computational time and also scalability, because yeah, everything is going to play a role, yeah, in these processes, because they are changing very fast.
Okay. Thank you. May I ask another question?
Yeah, go ahead.
So you were saying that when you're comparing your, let's say, the predicted and the true data, you're using something like pixel to pixel comparison. This a little bit surprised me because, I mean, if you have a minimum shift or rotation due to the image problems or whatever, you might detect that something that is actually exactly the same is different because it's simply shifted. Have you tried, and I mean, I'm talking because we are doing something a little bit similar. We are using the image recognition software that gives us some parameterized data of the image that you have. So this way, if you have some shifts or rotations, basically you can avoid it. So why did you decide to do a pixel by pixel, and have you tried something else?
Yeah, yeah, we tried this MSEC that is not going to consider that, to just have a kind of global evaluation. But we were interested, yeah, assuming that the camera is fixed, is not going to have movements. Yeah, the reference is going to be the same. So we want to see basically the pixel-wise comparison to see for the consistency of the droplet, just checking that the droplet is following the same trajectory through the process. Yeah, to be honest, we didn't try any image processing to see how the shifts of these droplets, probably they are good, but they are just moved a little bit or shifted a little bit. But yeah, that's probably a scenario that we also need to further explore.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you again, Luis. Is there any other question from the audience online? So if there are no more questions, then I think we can close the session here.